Hello, welcome to Dragon Does Math, where we are today learning how to simplify algebraic expressions. Basically, we're taking what we learned last time and we're just adding our variables with certain numbers attached to them. But this time, not everything is the same variable. So we're just going to learn how to distinguish between it, but overall, it's still very similar to what we already know. So let's go ahead and get started. This first problem, I have 1.2p plus 0.1p plus 4, or 1 2/10 p. But so the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to distinguish between p, all my numbers, all my coefficients. That's what you call the number in front of a variable. It's coefficient. My coefficients for p and my other, this doesn't have a variable, so I'm going to call that z. Now z stands for integer. That's called chalkboard bold right there. Why integer? The word integer is a z. Beats me. The French did that, so maybe it means something different in France. But anyways, so I have a 1.2p here and a 0.1p. Alright, and then my only remaining, I have the number 4 as an integer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add up everything in the p's column, and I'm going to add everything up into the z column, and I'm going to put them back together as an expression. So 1.2 and 0.1. Add those together, well, this becomes 1.3. Easy enough. And so this will be 1.3p, because that was the variable associated with it, plus 4. Just like that. This one I have x's in integers, so I want an x column that has 2/5 and 3/10. I have an integer column that has -1 and -2. Notice I kept this, whatever was in front of it, even though that's -1, -2, keep those as negatives. The answer will be screwed up if you don't. So say you said, well, that's -1, so 1 and 2, and then you never came back and added the negative at the end. So just make sure whatever's in front of the number, so that's -1, -2, comes down exactly as you see it. So let's add my x's first. 2/5 plus 3/10. That becomes 4/10 plus 3/10. Where that's coming from, multiply both of these by 2 to make 5 into 10. 2 times 2 is 4, 5 times 2 is 10. Add those together, 4 plus 3 is 7 over 10. That looks like 17, so I'm just going to circle that even though I shouldn't. So 17, and then my z is -1 and -2. -1 minus 2 more is -3. So I have 7/10, and that is an x. So we're in the x column. And then -3. So 7/10 x minus 3 is my final answer right there. Pause the video. Try these on your own. Okay. Let's do these two. Okay, so this one just shows they're all x, but I have 3 of them. It works just like you would imagine it. You basically add 0.8 to 0.4 to 0.1. So I'll do the first two first. 0.8 plus 0.4, that becomes 8 plus 4 is 12. Decimal comes straight down, so 1.2. 1.2 plus 0.1. 2 plus 1 is 3. 1 comes down, decimal. So basically 1.3. So that is 1.3x, because the variable was x behind all those coefficients. For this, same deal. I'm going to do 3/5 plus 1/5 first. Alright, they have a common denominator already, so I don't have to mess with anything. 3 plus 1 is 4 over 5. And then I'm going to subtract 1/10. So 4/5 minus 1/10. Okay. So to get a common denominator here, 5 does go into 10. The common denominator will be 10. 5 times 2 is 10. 4 times 2 is 8. Minus 1, 10. Well, it'll be over 10. 8 minus 1 is 7. So 7 tenths, and then we want to keep our variable. 7 tenths A. 7 tenths A. Student problems, go ahead and pause the video, work those out. Alright, so these, very similar again. I'm just going to look through, see what variables I have. I have m, and 7 and 2 are just integers. So in my m variables, I have 5 and I have 3, and my integer variables are 7 and 2. So add the m's first. 5 plus 3, well, that's easy. That's 8m. And then the integer, 7 plus 2 is 9, and we add them together. And that was simple. Really, the only thing that's different about this and the other ones was the order which they come. So just if you put them in columns like this, order doesn't really matter. You just know which you add like terms, and that's something that I haven't said. I should have said. You can only add like terms. And let me get to why. This is 5m. 5 times a variable. So if m is 1, then it doesn't matter. But if m is anything other than 1, that could be 5 times negative 3/5. M could be 3/5. And so that means that basically it's only, the answer, this one's 3. This one would be 9/5. Which you can't, it's like apples or mayonnaise jars. This is 5 mayonnaise jars and that's 7 numbers. You're not ever going to think those are the same thing. These are B's and these are C's. So that's like bats and that's like cats. You're not going to put those in the same cage and mistake them for one another. One is a cute and cuddly thing, and the other one's a vicious feline. Alright, that wasn't funny. Alright, anyway, so 8m plus 9, that's it. So this right here, we have B's and C's. So in the B's columns, we have 3/8 and negative 1/8. Notice I kept that negative right there. C's is going to be 2/3 and negative 1/3. Alright, so to combine these, we're going to say, well, 3/8 minus 1/8. 3 minus 1 is 2, so that's 2/8. And don't forget to look just to make sure that you don't simplify, because 2/8 does simplify down to 1/4. Basically, the reasoning being 2 goes into 2 and 8. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then 2/3 minus 1/3. Alright, 2 minus 1 is 1, 3 stays there, so that becomes 1/3. Just remember which answer goes with which variable. The 3/8 and 1/8 was C, so that's 1/4, not C, B. B. The thirds go with C, so that's going to be 1/3. C. And I said earlier that I would, this is correct, and I just want to make sure you realize you could write this like this. And it also is correct. I don't necessarily recommend it till you're really good at this stuff, but basically what's happening is you're taking this B, because it is a number, it's just a variable, you don't know what number it is, but it does exist as a number, and you're multiplying it by whatever's on top of the fraction, which is 1. So 1b divided by 4, 1c divided by 3. Anyways, that's it. We'll talk a little bit more about variables and distinguishing between them and how we know not to add variables and this and that in class. But do these problems, come prepared to do some math.